In this podcast, I'm delighted to be talking with Frederick Forsyth, best-selling novelist, and we are going to today be sharing the secrets of life behind the Iron Curtain during the Cold War. Freddie, it's wonderful that you're going to chat to me today.
Thank you.
How did you get into journalism?
Well, it certainly wasn't because I wanted to write anything. I'd come out of the Air Force, I'd done my national service, I'd got my wings, but I thought there was no future flying in the Air Force. It was going to be for Cranwell men only. I wasn't one, and therefore I left. And I sort of thought, what do I do? I want to travel. I want to see the world. I want to go all over the world. And back then, the Daily Express under Lord Beaverbrook was very proud of its 20 foreign correspondents. They travelled all over the world. They were always writing the headlines in the Daily Express every morning. My father took the Express, had done all his life, and so I thought, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a foreign correspondent. So into journalism, not to cover industrial disputes in the Midlands of England, but to get abroad. And that's eventually what I did by joining Reuters, the great foreign news agency.
And am I right in thinking it was when you were with Reuters that you found yourself behind the Iron Curtain?
So tell me about a year and a half covering de Gaulle in Paris, which gave rise later to the Day of the Jackal.
Yeah.
And then suddenly I was called into the office of Harold King, who said, London want to transfer you. And I said, oh, where? And they said, Berlin. I thought, wow, West Berlin, a party town. And he said, no, East Berlin. I thought, wow, that's even grimmer. Because back then, just in 1963, the wall was up. The wall went up in 61. And when it went up, the whole of the West ostracized East Germany. Everything was withdrawn. All the trade missions came out. All the cultural missions, everything stopped, except one. The Reuters office in East Berlin was maintained. It was the one and only foreign office, if you like, inside East Germany, inside East Berlin. And it was a one-man posting, meaning no wives. It's a bachelor posting. And it was, when I got there, I found my predecessor was virtually on the breakup, on the verge of a nervous crack-up. And I tried to sort of find out why he was in such a bad situation. I discovered it could only be one thing. It was the constant surveillance by the Stasis. Everything you said was recorded. Everything that you did was recorded and photographed. There was a building opposite the office with a permanently opened front windows, and in the recesses were the cameras. Everything was, the room was bugged, the bathroom was bugged, the kitchen, the sitting room, the bedroom obviously, and the office all bugged. Every time you left the building there, they were behind you. Every time you got in a car, there was the black check Tatra with the darkened windows coming 2 cars behind you. So you were totally like an insect under the microscope. And I thought, you either live with this or you crack up. And I thought, well, okay, I'm going to have to live with this. So I thought, I need a couple of weapons that they don't have. They got everything else. They got all the technology, all the manpower, all the time in the world. They didn't have any other targets, so I was the only one. So I devised 2. Firstly, they didn't know how well I spoke German, and I never let them know. I always talked when with them, the officialdom, German officialdom, with a thick accent and very poor German. When I wanted to, because I spent part of my boyhood, my school days in Germany, I could pass for German. So I could change from British suit to shabby German suit and disappear into them. And it drove them crazy with frustration. They couldn't work out where the hell I disappeared to.
So you just disappeared?
I just disappeared into the mass of East Germany, covering stories that I wasn't supposed to cover. Things were going on that nobody was being told were going on, like the occasional wildcat strike. Student demos took place. The East German people were far more rebellious than they've ever been given credit for. And I got out there, passing for German, and covered these stories, which I would file from West Berlin. We had an office in West Berlin, not with my byline. So then I'd reappear in East Berlin, and these stories would come out and drove them crazy. Where did this come from? Where did this come from? Herr Forsyth, were you by any chance in Weimar? I said, me, Weimar? Where's Weimar? Point out Weimar on the map to me. Wink, wink. Nudge, nudge. Yes, of course I was in Weimar.
So it was dangerous, and you just disappeared. I mean,
I don't know if it was dangerous or not. As long as I lived in the car, slept in the car, and did my ablutions in roadside cafes, I could stay more or less out of sight until I chose to come back in via West Berlin, back from the eastern side, the western side, and then reappear at Checkpoint Charlie, as if I had just simply been in West Berlin, which I'm entitled to do. And they thought I'd just gone into West Berlin and spent time there and come back out again. They didn't realise I'd gone straight through West Berlin into East Germany, prowled for 3 days, and was coming back. So I was always summoned when these bizarre stories appeared. A man called Kurt Blecher, who was a nasty piece of work, and he was the state official spokesman. He would summon me with his phony courtesy and his phony good humour and say, Herr Forsyth, you have had interesting time these last few days. I said, yes, certainly I was in West Berlin. Yeah. You didn't know anything about a strike in Erfurt? Strike in Erfurt? No. You were not in Weimar? Nein. They never proved that I could do it, but I could do it. They convinced that a person with my thick accent and terrible bad grammar and German would have to be spotted. Oh, why wasn't I being spotted? They didn't know that I could pass for German.
I don't know if I should ask you this, but were there moments when you had fun with the Stasi?
Oh, quite a few, but I think the one that embarrassed them and puzzled them most, which was easiest to accomplish, I used to go into my bedroom knowing that I was on sound recording, but no vision. They hadn't got minuscule cameras in those days. It was a long time ago. Close the bedroom door and on my bed have a sort of one-man, two-voice orgy. One voice speaking mine in lower timbre and with bad grammar, and the other higher timbre with lots of moaning. And some poor apparatchik in the basement with cans on would be listening to all this. And then he'd have to tell the people in the flat opposite that he's got a woman in there with him. And they'd say, no, he hasn't, he can't have, because we've been watching the door all night. And he came back from dinner and he's been alone ever since. No, he's got a woman in there with him. I'm listening to them, they're making love. And then there'd be a buzz on the door and it'd be the mechanic, the gas mechanic, to say, Herr Forsyth, we have reports of a gas leak in this building. I must come and examine your outlets. I let him roam the flat. More and more puzzled. He'd go into every drawer and cupboard and have to go back eventually and say, he has not got a Frau in there with him. Then who was he making love to? So, they never did discover how I did it. But it was very simple. Rude, but simple.
So that's how you coped with the literally constant 24/7 surveillance.
Yeah.
And how did you keep mentally fit through the humour and?
Well, I mean, one problem the Germans had was they couldn't stop West German TV because it was right close. It was over the wall, so the beams obviously crossed the wall. So although further down into East Germany, they could prevent the people watching West German TV. They couldn't stop them listening to Radio Free Europe or Radio Free Berlin on radio, where they could prevent them watching TV, not in West Berlin. So I had West German TV in my East Berlin office. So that was a bit of a help. And I could go through the wall whenever I wanted and have an evening in West Berlin, partying and dating girls and doing all sorts of things I couldn't do in the East. So yeah, I stayed sane.
It's like double life because you're living there completely on your own.
Yeah.
At a time actually when there's no freedom of press for the Germans, is there?
No freedom at all. And also my territory covered East Germany, Czechoslovakia and Hungary, so I travelled also to Prague and Budapest. They were much more lightly governed. They were communists, but they were much more lightly governed than the Germans. East Germany was reckoned the harshest of all the satellites. And the Stasi is the nastiest of all the secret police forces.
So are there any points at which you felt particularly in danger with the Stasi or even with the KGB, with the Russian intelligence? Did you have any near misses?
I was picked up once. The Russians had shot down an American spy plane over Magdeburg. And suddenly at 2 a.m, I was roused by the ticker tape asking if I would please go out somewhere, they didn't know where it was, somewhere into Magdeburg province and find this downed American bomber. Because under the Four-Power Treaty, they could send a prowl car, scout car, out to anywhere they wanted in East Germany, providing they could name exactly where they wanted to go. Wiesbaden, which was then the USAF headquarters in West Germany, didn't know where to send their scout car. So I went out in the middle of the night, and at dawn arrived roughly in the middle of Magdeburg province, began to ask basically agricultural workers who were clocking on 6 a.m. Spring morning, have you heard of a shot down American bomber? And they said, yeah, dort drüben ist er. He's over there.
This is Gary Powers, wasn't it? The famous...
Yeah. No, that was Gary Powers was the U-2 pilot.
Ah, okay.
No, this was an RB-66 twin-engine spy plane. His job had been to fly up and down the border with his cameras, his long toms, tilted sideways, photographing into East Germany, but not crossing the border. Well, the navigator, maybe he wasn't up to scratch, I don't know. Maybe the equipment malfunctioned, but he strayed over the border. It was intercepted by 2 Sukhois who shot him down using rockets. And down he duly came. All 3 crew bailed out. They had enough time to bail out and survived, one with a broken leg. And they landed, the plane went nose down in a wood. I found it there, its tail sticking up. I asked around, I found a charcoal burner. And he said, yeah, he'd been there, a mile away. He said the Russian staff car came and picked up the pilot with the broken leg and took him away to hospital. So I said, fine, great story. So I went to a nearby pub and filed it from there to East Berlin. Unfortunately, that was intercepted. So although my 20-folio story was duly taken down by my secretary in East Berlin and sent on by telex to West Berlin and thence to West Germany, so the story was out. They knew who I was and where I was, and the next thing I know, the place is raining secret police. Unfortunately, the reason why the spy plane was doing it was in the middle of a Soviet maneuver zone. So I got well and truly nicked. I got the Russians on one side, the East Germans on the other, the Stasi on the third, and I was lugged off to Stasi HQ in Magdeburg for about 24 hours. And they didn't knock me around. I thought they might, but they didn't. They just shouted at me, and after 24 hours, one of them said, yeah, aufstehen, get up. So I said, all right, fine, come with me. So I followed him down a corridor. I thought, maybe we're going to the execution cellar, I don't know. I got to the door at the end of the corridor, it was the car park. They were putting me back in my car and told me to get the hell out of Magdeburg and never ever come back. And I never have. I've never been back to Magdeburg.
So didn't you ever, at any point, I mean, this is a terrifying life to be living, because you were there for a year, weren't you, behind the Iron Curtain?
Yeah.
Was there any point at which you felt scared, or were you just young, you can kind of carry this off because you were young at the time?
I think youth was good. I was 24, 25. No, youth has it's got an enormous arrogance because it presumes nothing can go wrong and everything will be all right.
But it does underline the whole high-tech nature of the spying that was going on.
Well, I wasn't
in the Cold War.
I wasn't actually spying.
No, not you yourself, but
the thing, people do think that the foreign correspondents must be very good material for spies. Wrong, because a foreign correspondent in a dictatorship is always under surveillance. So as a secret agent, forget the word secret. He's not secret. He can't be. So basically, the secret agent is supposed to be, well, invisible, right, with a cover story or legend that is impenetrable and unspotted. Foreign correspondent is always spotted. So no, I was never approached by anybody, Americans or British, to become an agent. But as far as the East Germans are concerned, most dictators are concerned, there's a very, very hairline difference between a foreign correspondent doing his job, which is asking questions, exposing that which is hidden, and a spy. So as far as they were concerned, you could stray over that border so easily. And that's what they were accusing me of doing. I said, no, I was checked by my, well, they weren't emails in those days, checked by phone records in my office in Berlin. You'll see I was asked to come here and find this missing bomber, which is all I was doing. And I think they thought, eventually, obviously they consulted with Berlin from Magdeburg and were told, look, we don't need a show trial. This was just after the assassination of Kennedy. Things were pretty tense.
Do you feel there were moments of particular danger in the Cold War? I mean, what for you, was it really as dangerous as we think of those tense moments?
There were two. The Cuba Missile Crisis was very dangerous because it got to a point where Kennedy basically could not back down. He wanted those missiles removed from Cuba. Or what? Or he'd bomb them. Khrushchev made plain if he bombed them out of existence, that would be a declaration of war, because certainly Russian technicians would die, and that he would then respond with nuclear weapons. They finally came to an agreement, which was not published in the West. Basically, the Americans agreed to close down their Turkish base at Incirlik, from which they were flying U-2s.
Yes.
Hence, earlier reference to Gary Powers.
Yeah.
They were flying out of a Turkish base called Incirlik. We were told in the West that Kennedy had won hands down. The Russians were told that Khrushchev had won hands down. And so peace was restored. It didn't end, but it nearly did. There was another crisis later called Ryan, R-Y-A-N. This was under Andropov, who was paranoid and slightly balmy. He convinced himself that the West's war games were going to become real. There was a big war manoeuvres going on in Western Europe. He convinced himself it was going to become real, and he put all his rocket bases onto Code Red. And that was close. We had to be persuaded it was just a manoeuvre, just war games.
And of course, espionage played quite a key part in that, didn't it? In pulling back from what was the brink of war, and because it was a Cold War, was no less serious than a hot war. Yeah, and so do you think there are things that the intelligence agencies can learn today? Do you think it's any less dangerous today? What do you think are the challenges for military intelligence
I'm not up to speed on this, because obviously much of it now is in cyberspace. So we're talking about espionage in cyberspace, not shifty-looking men going down shifty dark alleys late at night behind the Iron Curtain. It's not like that anymore. Where the threat would come from, I don't know, but everyone is saying it'll move more and more into that place that none of us really can understand, cyberspace. It'll be between computers.
So just to sort of, it's been wonderful to chat with you. But can I ask you just finally, is there a moment in your career when you look back and particularly, well, in the Cold War, we're talking about the Cold War, is there a moment that's most memorable for you?
Oh, Lord. No, I don't think the Cold War produced any memorable moments. My big one, when an Air Vice Marshal pinned the wings of a British fighter pilot on my jacket, when I looked down into the face of my first newborn baby son, and when Her Majesty hung a ribbon around my neck. Those for me are the three big ones. But in terms of danger, a few moments when I thought I wasn't going to make breakfast tomorrow morning. But they came, they went. I mean, those moments. I was always there for breakfast, so far.
Oh,
I'm 82 now, I'm not going anywhere.
Freddie, that was wonderful. Thank you so much for talking to me today and sharing the secrets of life behind the Iron Curtain during the Cold War.
Not at all.
This has been a production for the National Centre for Military Intelligence. To find out more and to support the NCMI, please visit ncmi.co.uk.